All right. So I'll start with Beth, who recently joined Prisma with me. So maybe you could talk about first how you found out about Prisma and how you got interested in it, and what about it interested you.
Okay, so hi, hi everyone. Officially now, my name is Beth. I'm a physics student in the master's at ETH. And last semester, I was part of the ETH week and just loved the design thinking process and this being together with people who are not doing exactly what I'm doing the whole time, all physicists. So just talking with other people from other studies, and this way I discovered that there was a design thinking class in the fall semester last year for master students, and I took this one. And yeah, there I met Alan, who is actually like a project manager at Prisma. And on his LinkedIn, I saw that there was an open position at Prisma, and yeah, this was my way to find it, and I was just amazed by seeing that there was an initiative trying to do precisely that, to put together students from different study programs. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what is your main goal in being part of our movement?
So for me, it's about trying to, yeah, it sounds maybe too big, but trying to complete the education that ETH gives right now. So I believe that probably you guys agree. I don't know. If not, maybe we can ask it later too. But the technical education ETH gives, the subject-specific knowledge is pretty good. But yeah, ethically thinking about things, or just putting things in context, and yeah, being able to talk about what you do with people who do something completely different is something we never practice. We're never, or really seldom, holding presentations or working in teams and on our soft skills. And this is something you'll need for sure afterwards in real life if you're working at an enterprise, for example. And I think the aim in Prisma is to try to make this soft skills and this interdisciplinary approach part of the curricula of our students.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, also just to tell everyone again, Elizabeth is doing the HOPO, Hochschulpolitik of Prisma. And I guess you could elaborate a bit on what your hope is in the future for the curriculum of ETH.
Yes, I guess that my hope is that, yeah, I think it's plus minus what I said until now, that yeah, our goal, maybe and Patrick can tell more about this, but the first goal would be that this Prisma course is really part of every bachelor curricula. But that might be a little, yeah, it's ambitious for the beginning, so we should start with something smaller. But if in the end we would manage to make this elements I just mentioned part of every bachelor student curricula, that would be amazing.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, what would you see in Prisma's future on its own? Because for now, like, just to add a little detail, we're planning to do 2 lectures, one in the autumn semester and one in the spring semester. And that seems to be the plan, but of course we're hoping that it will continue. And yeah, so you could say what your hopes are for the upcoming years.
Yeah, so of course the hopes are to scale this up, to have a first group of students this autumn semester who are really motivated and see the value in what we're doing, and have good takeaways from it, and that they want to continue maybe being involved in other things we might organize later, and that they also spread the word and other students are also interested in joining our course, and that we can scale it up next semester. And this way we that would help us reach more and more students and really make these elements part of everyone's curricula. And I mean, in the beginning we're starting with a small group of students, but if you're there, guys, and you love it as much as we do and are passionate, then you can really spread the word, and we can get to more people. And I think that would be a gift for all of you and for all of us afterwards in real world life when you go out from university. So
yeah, our hope is definitely to scale it up, and hopefully that professors will also support it and know about it. Yeah, by the way, I just want to ask, is everyone from ETH? You could do like a hand raise if you know how to do it. Oh. Okay, cool. So I could keep going with our team members. Ellen, who will be giving the lecture, is not here, but we can move on with our founders, Medea and Patrick. So maybe Medea can say a couple words now. So I could ask you how you came up with the idea for Prisma, along with.
Hi everyone. Yeah, that's a good question. It took some time. So it was first a working group where we randomly thought about how could we make ETH better, and there we had a lot of ideas, and one idea was to do something like ETH week, but to have it for everybody. And then Patrick and me and some other students, we very fast discovered that it was organizationally very difficult to do something like that for everybody. And then we actually did a design thinking workshop. So the method we will be using in the course, we applied it to find our idea. And we sat down one day and thought about what is our main goal. And our main goal was to integrate some interdisciplinary skills, some social competencies like teamwork and communication and decision making between students into the curriculum, and also that students help students. So therefore we came up with the idea of this course. I will shortly wrap it up that you all have it in mind, where bachelor students in small teams coming from different study programs will work together to build a prototype for a sustainability problem, and master students will coach them. Yes, maybe Patrick later has more to add.
Yeah, and it's also inspired by ETH Week.
Yes.
Maybe, yeah, did you guys hear of it? It's the week before the semester starts, like the autumn semester starts. It's a thing since 2015, where people from different disciplines come together to solve problems, real world.
Yes, so ETH Week is also a partner of Prisma, as they share the same goals. The difference is just that our long-term goal is to reach all students, or to have it in the curricula, and ETH Week is more something you do additionally.
Yeah, sorry?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I guess I could also ask you then, what's your main goal in being part of Prisma?
Yeah, so my main goal is, of course, to change education at ETH. and to integrate some skills. And if that will be too ambitious, then at least to make people who are now engaged in education, like professors or directorate, to think about what they're doing at the moment. So to challenge them a bit, that not everything that is done as it has been done always is the best way to do it. So really to challenge this view a bit. And also personally, I'm just having fun to organize it.
Yeah. Also, the directorate is supporting it, so that goal is definitely moving forward, I believe.
Yes. So for your information, the directorate has like a pool of money that they can give to innovative teaching projects, and they accepted our project. So we are directly funded by Directorate, and they are now looking at how we're doing. And each half year we're discussing with them how to go on with the project.
So I guess, what kind of views do you hold regarding the current style of education? Because you said that you wanted to change or get better.
Yes, so I think ETH does a lot of good things in education, but the main points I would criticize is that it's very focused on exams. So it's very much like you get your subject and then you have to study for it and you have the exam. So it's a bit sad because it is students get quickly into this mode of just studying for the exam and not studying to understand. And also it's not very interactive. And I think because of these two things, it's not very sustainable, and a lot of times we forget a lot of details we have learned. And of course also that every discipline is very separated from the others. Which of course sometimes is needed because we need to have some specialized knowledge. But some exchange would be nice, because what we discovered during the development of the project was also that a lot of professors don't even exchange with professors from other disciplines, which is quite sad, because there is a lot of potential for new topics to do research, but also to do educational.
So what do you hope for Prisma and ETH curriculum in the future?
So in the short term, I hope that this autumn and next spring, our course will be really cool, and that the people enjoy it, and also that the students get to know it, and that we can get back feedback from students to further improve the course. And I think this goal is quite reachable if we keep on working and making it more known. And then the long-term goal is a more harder challenge. My dream would be that Prisma would be integrated, so that ETH really sees the competencies that we teach, like social competencies and so on, that they should be integrated in the curricula, and that it's not just a nice to have, but a must have. But this will be a challenge. First of all, organizationally, because we have to scale it up. And secondly, politically, that everybody agrees. And that's also why the process is taking so long. But I think it's good that we build it up slowly but sustainable, so that in a few years it may be bigger.
Yeah, I think it's also important to underline that the competencies Prisma is trying to promote come from a very wide array of competencies that the rectorate made.
Yes, the rectorate.
It's all kind of Springman's idea to bring these competencies to students.
Yes, the goal of the rectorate is also to map these competencies over all study programs and all courses, so that also if you take an additional course, you can see which things you learned.
So I guess we could go to Patrick, and then we could all talk a bit about ourselves, like our hobbies. Yeah. Then I'm going to ask Patrick also how you came up with the idea for Prisma.
So good evening, everybody. Also from my side, my name is Patrick, and as Dennis said, and I'm an electrical engineer. 2 years ago, I started Prisma together with Medea. And why did we do that? My main motivation was ETH Week. So I participated at this great event at ETH 3 years ago, and I thought I very much enjoyed it and thought, why does not everybody has that? And this led us to the idea that we could create a course for everybody at ETH, which brings them together with other people. So I think ETH has a great strength that we have some of the smartest minds in Switzerland or the world united at the same place here at our campus, but we rarely get out of our study program. So we actually could perform much better than together with other people. And I think this idea needs to be spread more. And this actually led us to the idea of creating a course to actually encourage that. Of course, this is only a small measure, and can grow much bigger. But we think it is a good start to actually increase the interdisciplinarity at ETH. And yeah, as was said before, we worked on it for 2 years. We got money to spend, and which you can hopefully profit from.
So what is your main goal in being part of our movement?
So my main goal is to set the foundation for growing interdisciplinarity at ETH. So I know that as one person, we can only make one step at a time. So our goal, Medea, I think, was that we can prepare ETH mentally, like prepare the professors, prepare everybody at ETH that maybe, but there is a need to make students work more together and actually build something, also have fun, of course, and so on. And this was my main goal was to build that foundation. And yeah, of course, now the next step would be to actually build up on it so that in the end, ETH is Prisma and Prisma is ETH.
Nice. So what views do you hold regarding the current style of education that we're having at ETH?
Mm-hmm. As mentioned before, ETH is great on every rating and so on. So ETH is on a content-based level. I think ETH is great. So there is not much to add. On the other hand, ETH on a collaborative level could do much more. I think it's wasted talent if we do not work together with other people to actually perform better and to make us change makers, or to actually, because ETH has the potential to actually achieve something in the world and also concern. That's also why we chose sustainability goals, because if I don't know, an architect and a civil engineer and an electrical engineer come together and they build the perfect house concerning energy balance, that would be much better than if each of these person individually try to solve this problem. So I think ETH should make use of that, and that's also kind of my view how education should look like, and which it doesn't at the moment. So we get the necessary means to do it, but we actually do not solve the world's problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also what Patrick means by choosing the sustainable goals is that in our course in the autumn semester, our theme will be a sustainable development goal of the UN. It's their 11th goal, which is sustainable cities and communities. And I think it was also part of ETH Week, right? They chose it.
So this is, I don't think so. ETH Weeks this year has the topic health.
Okay.
So we are not coordinated with them at the moment. We are working on it. So our goal is sustainable cities and communities. Because we have a great partner in this fall semester, we work together with the city of Zurich, which actually supports us with inputs and also with hopefully lectures, inputs, portraits, whatever. So it could in the fall course we can actually do something. You can work with in a real city on real sustainability with real people. So that's also what makes it that great. And we actually hope to continue that with other sustainability goals as well in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's great that the solutions that we might come up with in the lecture will also, it might profit the actual city. I also find that pretty cool. And also, I want to say that I'll be a student in the course because I'm on bachelor's, and Elizabeth will be a master's coach, coaching one of the groups of bachelor students. So
maybe you can tell a little bit more about how the course is planned to run. So we are planning to have in the autumn semester, we will start with, depending on Corona, it will be 30 or 24 students. We haven't, 30 or 24 students. And the idea is that you will be in teams of interdisciplinary people, so not working with the people you already know, but rather trying to get you mixed up among you, and then we will create several teams with let's say 4 or 5 people in each team, and all the students should be bachelor students, but for each team you will have a master student coaching you. The master students will be trained beforehand to be able to do this job, but this will be the arrangement of the class. So I had this design thinking class I told you about 1 year ago, and it was a similar arrangement, and I can tell you it's super fun because it's so different than having a lecture, and that is just frontal, you know. You fall asleep sometimes because it's just someone telling you something. And in the design thinking course, in the Prisma course, you need to be awake the whole time and working in teams and bringing out new ideas and creating, and it's just super dynamic. You get to not only meet this new people from other studies, but you really build up a relation with them because you need to work together. It's a fast-paced way of working together, and yeah, I mean, I think in my class there was no one who wasn't really motivated in the end, in the middle, and also maybe in the beginning the least, because you get more motivated when you're doing it, but also because it's just an energy that takes you. And yeah, I don't know if there are, I know that there are not many courses like that at ETH, so it's a chance you have there to try out something completely different. If you would have some more questions to how the course should run, you can also ask them. But yeah, this would be like a little insight.
So
there's thanks, Dennis.
One important thing to say: we actually work together with many study programs, so you actually can take that course in your regular bachelor program and actually get credits for it.
Oh yes, it's 4 credits.
It's 4 credits, and it is embedded. It's not something in addition, but you can, in many study programs, you can take it as an elective or some similar course structure. So
yeah, you can, if we will put the information on the website, but if you want to know it already now, you can also ask us for your study program how the status is there, and we can let you know.
And it doesn't mean if it's not in your department that you can't take it, of course. Yeah, but our hope is, of course, that all the departments will allow it to be a credit-giving course. But the main goal is that it doesn't even have to be a lecture, that it will be in the general curriculum. Yes, thanks for the explanation about the course. It sounds a lot like a big brainstorming session. And
it is, I guess it is. Yeah.
And keep in mind, it will be one of the only courses you probably will have where you can actually meet people, real people in real life without Zoom.
Yes, if COVID doesn't allow for in-person lectures to happen, Prisma's course can still happen because we will be in Teams and we can still meet.
So the idea would be there that just if the courses wouldn't be allowed to happen, we would split you up in this. We will split you up in this teams anyway, but you would meet with the people in your team. So in 4 or 5 people's groups, you would meet physically. So really, and you wouldn't meet the whole course if it's not allowed. But we believe that in worst case scenario, meeting up with 5 people for real will still be possible. So yeah, that will be different from all other courses.
Yes. All right. So I'm gonna ask the final question to Patrick, which would be, what do you see in ETH curriculum's future and Prisma's future?
I already partly talked about that. So my vision about the future of ETH is that Prisma is not only something added and something which some students do and some do not, but it is actually some core and essential part of ETH, so that you learn to collaborate, to work together, to perform with others. And my vision of ETH would be that, as said before, Prisma is ETH, because it is part of it. And yeah, that would be my dream.
Thank you. So Mede and Patrick are leaving at the end of July, but they'll still be involved. But me and Beth are taking over. So if you want to contact us in some way, we can send our emails in the chat. And if you have any questions, you can also ask it there if you remember later that there was something you wanted to say. Yeah. So maybe we could hear a bit about you guys. What made you interested in Prisma? You can also write it in the chat.
Or you can also raise your hands if you don't want to speak up directly.
Also, I'm really wondering if most people are bachelor students or master students.
Yeah, so let's make a voting. So first, who's a bachelor student? Let's try to use the raise hand option if you know how it works. You need to click on participants, and when you're there, you can you can raise your hand there. Okay, so we have several bachelor students. Let's give you a little bit more time.
All right, now let's check out the master students. Maybe some people are not even from ETH. So who is a master student? Okay, nice. And well, thank you for joining, of course, both bachelor and master students.
Okay, I have one further question. Who knows ETH week? Okay, so not that many. Maybe we were referring to ETH week as a reference here, and you don't know it yet. Does some of you want to explain a little bit about it, or so that people know what we're basing on?
I never joined the ETH week, but I saw the advertisement of it last year, and I found it very interesting because I saw the pictures of like people again being in teams and working to solve the problems that were given to them. Oh, and also our lecturer Alan was a designer of ETH week, which could be a cool detail, like connected. Yeah.
Patrick was actually a coach at ETH week, so maybe he can explain you a bit the process of design thinking and how this week worked, because I think that's not clear to everyone.
So, as mentioned, the method we use is design thinking. This is an innovation process which forces you to perform well and in a very short time. So it is quite a handy tool also for anything else. So it consists of several processes. First, you have to steps. First, you have to actually get to find a problem which interests you, and then you have actually to. That's okay. Maybe a bit. Explain it a bit differently. So it is built onto the idea that you have to force to be creative, but immediately after you are forced to actually decide on something. So you always have to open up yourself and then take decisions, and that's quite a hard process if you're not used to it. And design thinking actually forces you to do that. So first you have to choose a problem which you want to solve, and then you have to actually find a solution, but then you have to decide, and you iterate this process several times. Maybe I do not fully know the structure of the model or remember it correctly, but I don't know if you want to tell us something more, Beth, or if it makes sense to go more into depth.
Yeah, so maybe I would just say I would recommend you a lot to take it. I took it this autumn, and it was an amazing experience because it's a mix of getting input from experts, from academia, and also from the industry, which makes it more real world connected because you really see you see the bridge between the two, and you see the real value in doing some research and what can be the outcome from that. And at the same time, you get all this inspiration, let's say in the morning, and then you have the evening to work on a team and develop your own solution to a problem that you plus minus pick yourself. So it's pretty nice, and and it's free food. It's so there are many other activities. So I don't know if it's gonna have all these add-ons this year because we have COVID-19, and this makes it a little more difficult. But it will still for sure have this design thinking part that will also be present in our course, and that is I think you already described it. This is a great tool for being creative and innovative, and it keeps you energetic the whole time because you are non-stop developing solutions and working in a team. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
I just asked in the chat about your study programs, so I would be really interested to know where you're coming from. So I think talking is a bit a high hurdle, so you can also just write it into the chat, as Benedict already did.
We could tell our fields. Beth is doing physics masters, and I'm doing computer science.
I'm doing interdisciplinary natural sciences.
And I'm doing electrical engineering.
I saw in the chat that someone's starting informatic in September, so good luck.
Okay, so it looks like we have a pretty diverse team
Very
here
diverse,
today.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, that's nice. That's the aim. So yeah. Great. Okay.
Oh,
Nice.
someone from Lusata is also here.
Mm.
Welcome.
So if you have questions, you can also write them into the chat, then we can answer you them if you do not want to or are not able to talk at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just do whatever you prefer. I was wondering if we can first look if there are too many questions, but if you prefer a more intimate way of asking questions, we can also go into breakout rooms.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you would like it more, but yeah, maybe let's see if there are some questions first. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my main hope from this webinar is that like you guys really understand what we're trying to achieve, I guess, and like what it really is. So just to repeat, I don't know, some people newly join or some leave. Currently, we are doing a course, but our main goal is that ETH has a more interdisciplinary approach and that we cultivate many different competencies that in ETH that we currently don't believe are being fostered by our professors or quite traditional maybe.
Can I ask a question right here
Mhm.
and break out my anxiety barrier? So yeah, I came up on your site. You followed me on social media, and I thought it was really interesting because you described Prisma as connecting the students of ETH and ETH to the real world, because you have mostly like everything you do is like you're locked into a course, you have a topic you have to study, you have to memorize everything and then spurt it out on an exam. And you're saying you're doing a course.
Mm-hmm.
So, and your goal is to connect the different topics with one another, like more in a people circumstance, like people connecting, than in an exam situation, right? So,
yeah.
and you're doing this with a course. So how, but I think if you want to connect people with real life, are you doing this also via social media, via platforms, via talking to people outside from ETH2 and linking them together?
Mm-hmm.
And also with the course?
So,
or like both?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. I think it's a very good one. And I think it is an important point because the course sounds quite boring and quite typical ETH. So main part of the course will be to go to the street, to actually ask people why, how, what do you do? So it's not just you're sitting in a classroom and listening to people and learn some methods. It's not about you are doing that, you are learning by doing. So you will have a project. You go to talk to the city people, you go to talk to people who live in the city, you actually test your prototype with random people you meet. So it's you have this connection. It is called course because that's the only format you can officially do at ETH. But we also plan to do other things than the course, and maybe our successors know more about what is going to happen.
Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the course, we're not going to have an official exam, right? It's going to be more rating what we did throughout the semester. So
yeah, maybe I can tell you a little bit more about how the course, called course, but looks like. So in the previous course we had of design thinking, which is kind of similar to the format that's gonna be the Prisma course. Half of the times we met in the Sparks lab. This is a room which is already distributed in a way that you have a lot of creative stuff around you to touch and create prototypes and everything. You move around everything, so you're not sitting in front of everyone. And this is the most ETH part, and it's not ETH style already. But half of the times we were directly meeting at Starbucks, at Central, directly on the street, and the group was meeting there because all the lecturers were telling us that day was, okay, you already know what to do. You go out and interview people. And then our class consisted of just looking for possible people to interview who might be interesting because they fit the person we connect to the problem statement we've developed and talking to them. So it's really about going out. It's really about, we also had a lot of interviews on the phone with people we might know over someone, or we just contacted them because we thought they were interesting. So it was really not a course in this way. And regarding what Dennis just said, you don't have an exam in the end. Of course you don't. What you have is that you have several projects during the semester. The first projects are shorter because you need to learn the design thinking method. But once you kind of, the design thinking method is this creative method. You just go through it once and learn how it works. But in the end, you're doing a project for a project partner, which is a real project partner in industry. So it's again, we sometimes felt like it's not being consultants, but rather going in this direction. So you're giving advice to a real company, which in this case might be the city of Zurich.
Maybe I can add something. More specifically, our course will take place in the student project house. So I don't know who of you knows it. It's a place at the Hunkerberg, and it is planned to be built in the center as well, but at the moment it's on Hunkerberg. And there's a lot of space for people to work together with a lot of whiteboards and so on. And there are partners of Prisma, and you will specifically be there. But of course, if your team can also meet somewhere else, as Elisabeth said already. And the interviewing part is like a first step of design thinking. So you will actually be forced to engage with people outside of ETH. And about the cooperation thing, so it will be the city of Zurich, and I think that's maybe a difference to the design thinking class, that we don't have some enterprises involved, but one main partner. And then the idea is that you first have this 3-week small challenge to get to know the process, and in the longer challenge, the city of Zurich will give challenges, but you as a team will then still define the details of this challenge. So you will not be given like a specific task, like, okay, please improve this specific e-bike station, but more like, okay, we need to find a new solution for mobility. So just to be more concrete, that you can imagine a bit. The idea is also that one challenge is already for the team to define the problem.
Yeah, and every semester the theme will change. So we might do different SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. So I think we're not just going to stick to the sustainable cities, but really look, I don't know, I guess learn to look at the world in a different way. And also to your question, the thing with communicating with people, I guess by looking at these topics that are really important currently, we get to see them from a different perspective by talking to people from different departments. So even though it's a course, you still get to have these interactions that maybe if you're just sitting with your friends, you don't really talk about this stuff, but you do it there, I guess.
Can I ask another question?
Sure, go for it.
Where I have maybe several questions, but first of all, like, where does the name Prisma come from? You never talked about that. I think that is pretty interesting.
Should I?
Oh, I think.
Or
Yeah, you should
address it?
answer it. Yeah, yeah. Go for it.
So yeah, you know, name development is a difficult task. So maybe for your amusement, I can start with our first name, which was Crow Pro, coming from cross-disciplinary project course. And then everybody was like, okay, this is an awful name. Then with some brainstorming, we changed the name to Rose. And then we said like, Rose, how to become a real bachelor. But while doing all the design thing and really making our website, we had an expert on communication and design and branding, and he told us, okay, this is a bit too romantic. And then we were like 6 or 7 people brainstorming. And
but Rose also means something.
Ah, yes, Rose. Revolution of STEM education was our goal. So it was a revolutionary name. Because we said, okay, we want to change the education. And some people really liked it, but some people were also like, okay, please no revolution. And some other people were like, okay, this should already have been done 10 years ago, so it's not really a revolution. And yeah, okay, that was a long story. And then Prisma came out because maybe you've seen the logo. The idea is that one beam goes in and it is like divided up into the different colors. And the idea is that it shows you come in with your mindset that is like this, and you open it up with several disciplines. Yes, we know it's not physically totally correct. That's also intriguing maybe for some students.
It makes sense, like this with the with one mindset, and then it expands, sort of. And talking about expanding, you talked about it before. How do you plan on expanding this course? Like right now it starts with a small course where you have those step-by-step projects, and then you want to expand with people, with maybe even coaches. How do you plan on doing that?
So the main problem at the moment is the coaching. So where we want to scale the course to as many people as possible. So ideally, every bachelor student would have done it, but the problem is the coaching, because there have to be enough people who can do it and are willing to do it. So ideally, every year, some of the students who participate are motivated and want to learn more about this, and they become coaches. And this number of people who like the course and become coaches actually more or less defines how many students can participate the next year. Because we do not want to have too big a group, because this will be less efficient. But this scaling is our main goal, because we want to reach as many students as possible.
Do you also plan on scaling like via social media, via platforms, via other ways that goes like beyond ETH, or is it just within the ETH spectrum?
Yeah, I guess I could answer that. So currently I'm trying to get a lot of students to know more about it. So like I followed you on Instagram, and I'm the one doing all the following. But of course, that's I think it's just very one-sided if it's only through Instagram. So we're hoping to also make a YouTube page that we can explain our idea a bit clearer, because I think videos work well regarding that. But in terms of people, we're definitely mostly, like, our target demographic is the ETH students, whether they're in bachelor's or master's. And we're trusting that the word will spread about it. So I guess we're all telling our friends about it too. But I personally definitely think that each university should keep this idea in mind, because I think otherwise it could make a really stressful environment for students if it's so theoretical and with all the exam stress. So what I hope is that, just like the city of Zurich, we can get different platforms to support us as well in Switzerland. And the very, very far-reached goal would be that other universities like Oxford will also support it throughout their own,
like supported Prisma directly, or like have their
or
own,
make something like that for themselves.
make something like that.
I mean,
and like, yeah.
Sorry, maybe I can add something. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, this far goal could also be to have groups together with the city of the University of Zurich, because they are neighbors, and I mean, it will be even more interdisciplinary if we could integrate, for example, social sciences or so on. But it's just organizationally much more difficult, so that's why she said a 4-4 goal.
So maybe just adding something to that, we have a question on the chat: why not collaborating among different universities? In my opinion, that would be super interesting, because in the end, ETH might have many different bachelors inside, many different directions, but it's still all technical. You're not having an artistic education, a philosophical education, etc. So of course that would make it much more interdisciplinary. The broader you get, the better. But as with every big goal, you need to start somewhere, and we started at ETH. So that's why we're funded by the rectorate at ETH. So we're firstly focusing on the ETH students, but we're totally open. I believe I can talk for all of us saying this, to more ideas, and it's just about time and people who want to give new ideas and to just do things and talk with maybe other universities and convince them. And this is the way to scale up things. So we start here. We need a starting point, and we need to create a base. But once we have it, of course, the aim is to make it as broad as possible. So yes, I think those are great ideas. We shouldn't be saying it's a course at ETH. This is the way we start.
Can I ask one other question? There's another question right there, but if I may, I have one other thing. You're talking about planning on that universities participate and students get together. What about, let's say, simply put, the job world from the outside? Will you have people coming from the outside and connect with the students of ETH? Are you planning on that too? Yeah,
that's our project partners. That's what City of Zurich would be for this first SDG for this semester. But of course, one of our goals is to also be like a bridge for you to the real world. So we would support the connection between students and project partners, and those are people in the from the industry. The ideas we have regarding that would be, for example, having challenges inside this one course, or maybe a hackathon or some other events that we might organize, but having the challenges given from outside, not only invented by us, but being real world challenges. And this would be already a connection with a certain industry, a certain enterprise who might be interested. And I mean, for them, it's just getting new ideas on the problem they have, so they are interested too. I worked for Migros, for example, in this last project we had. We were developing something for them, so this is already a connection. And the other possibility is to have some input talks from industry people. This is at ETH, it's like this. So there, since the subject this last year was mobility, we had the CEO from SBB, we had people from Bond Mobility, we had people from Smite. I don't exactly remember all the companies, but those were people coming from the industry. So there's also a bridge there, yes. And we're planning to create more events that help build this bridge.
Okay, I have one other question that resulted from that. If you talk about building a bridge, often I also ask my friends that finished ETH or that or myself that started working for internship and stuff like that. You always have this practical and theoretical part that you learn at ETH, and then you go into the let's say job world, where you maybe it feels like you start off from zero, where you start anew. And in this competitive world we live in right now, it is really important to sell oneself, but it's also really important to be able to solve new problems. That is, for example, here in architecture, every time we start a new semester we have 26 different professors we can choose from, and everyone has a new topic. And from everywhere, it's sort of like you start from zero, where you solve a problem. When you go to the job world, you have kind of the same scenario, but there are like two aspects: the problem-solving part and the to sell oneself part, that people listen. Is that correct? More or less those two poles. So in Prisma, do you focus on the problem-solving aspect, or do you focus on the how can I as a student immerse myself and sell myself in a job world?
Shall I answer that, or just...
It is, yeah, of course.
For me personally, I think by doing the projects, you kind of prepare yourself for the job aspect too, and that the competencies that Prisma will foster are kind of ingrained in the project that we're doing.
Yeah, maybe I can add that we're not specifically saying, okay, students need this in their work and that's why we're doing it. It's really that you engage as a team in project work, and on that way you will learn competencies that are important, like in your private life, if you're working for a company, but also if you're working in academics, when you're doing a research project. So the competencies are really basic. And so also things like critical thinking, decision making, organizing yourself, and it's more basically targeted. But of course you can use it in your job later. But the goal is also to really learn the method, how you can approach problems, how you can make decisions as a team, and not really having in the end like a perfectly finished robot that you could sell. It's more like the idea is that you do this develop process, and of course it's good that if in the end you have a result, but the more important thing is that you learn this way, and also that you learn to revise your ideas. So you get the problem, you develop your ideas, then you test the solution, and then you have to throw it away again. So yeah, it's more targeted on that. But it's a bit, you cannot really separate it because you can use it for both.
Yeah.
I would like to add something to that. You were saying that you feel that you start like over from scratch each time when you start.
Almost.
But I don't agree at all, because you start with a new specific subject. So your specific knowledge on a specific subject might be 0 when you start with that project, but your methodologies are completely non-zero. So you
Yes,
gain,
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
we're focusing on methodology. If you look at the ETH competencies framework, I don't know if you know it. It's just a list of competencies. You will see that you have like the subject specific ones, and those are the tech skills, the know-how in your specific field, and then you have the method specific competencies or the personal competencies, and we're working on the latter, on those two. And this tool will allow you to tackle any problem, even if the new problem is a completely different subject, with some new tools. We're giving you tools. We're not giving you a specific knowledge, but we're giving you tools that you can apply to any kind of problem. And this allows you to not start from scratch over and over again, but this is a continuous building. Each time you have more of these skills.
Yeah, it's not how I meant starting from scratch, but it's starting from it's in a new area. For example, I have friends, they finished their masters. For example, one friend, she finished her master in chemical engineering, and now she works as an IT consultant, which is not really the same topic. Or one friend finished political science, and now she works as an IT consultant, and it has nothing to do with that, or almost nothing, but she can work there because it's the same methodology. But you need to kind of learn how to immerse yourself in that topic, because before you were just studying for exams, solving problems there. Now you are at a workplace and you have to go into job meetings, and if you never did that, it feels like you're starting from scratch. But of course you're not.
I could direct you to I think ETH, I mean, before COVID, every year they were hosting something like a lot of job firms would come and present themselves. I'm sure you've seen them. And some student associations actually help you prepare your CV, and that, like, you can even have mock meetings. So you could definitely stay tuned for that. And I would think that the projects that we do in Prisma, we can definitely put them in the CV, and it's something concrete rather than just I got the credits for this exam, but something that you experienced. So and does anyone else have questions on that topic?
Yes, I have a question. Elizabeth talked about tools which we are given when we want to solve a problem. Can you give us an insight what kind of tools these are? Because I cannot quite imagine what that could be like.
So that's actually this design thinking process. The idea is that when you get a problem, and you first need to define pretty precisely what this problem is in order to be able to tackle it. It's often not given to you as one sentence or one question that is really precise. And the first part is really going out and talking to people. I might give an example that makes it easier. Always speaking abstract is more difficult. Okay, so let's say, yeah, I think I will just use the example from ETH week last year. So there was a topic given, how does mobility look in the future? And not everyone, but most of the people related it to sustainability. And this is a pretty broad topic, so you can't solve anything if you don't have a concrete question. Okay, you first start going out and just talking to people and trying, you define some questions you'll ask them, and then you interview people. And then you try to find where problems might be there. And then you find out, for example, that commuting takes a lot of time, and that it also is, of course, it's not sustainable if you're in your car for 2 hours every day, and that there is a problem there. Okay, you know that there is a problem there. Next step, you need to define a persona and a problem statement. So design thinking is made like, first you open yourself and get information, and when you have information, you need to define something with this information. And this would be this persona and this problem statement. And then you try to define a very concrete, let's say, John, 50 years old, he's going to work every day, but needs to drive for an hour, and is sad because he loses time to be with his family, and he would also prefer not to pollute that much by driving his car. You define it. Once you have defined it, you start brainstorming. And there are several brainstorming methods too. I won't go through all of them, but you can kind of make it more dynamic, and with some tricks, it's easier to get more ideas than if you just sit down and think, okay, now I need to have an idea. And then those are other methods we give you. And with when you brainstormed, then you try to make something concrete out of that again, and you try to pick one of the ideas you took and prototype it. And then once you prototype it and do something physical, you can go out with this prototype again and interview people again and show them your prototype and tell them, does this solve your problem? Your prototype might also be an idea, but you need to somehow bring it into something physical that you can show people and see their reactions and analyze the reactions. And with that, you iterate this process again and again, and use the learnings you have to improve the whole process over and over again. So these are plus minus some of the tools. Just having a process that has several steps, and that you can use as a baseline for your creative process, and always having this checking with the outside world again and again, so that you don't get lost in something creative but never test it. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, that answers my question pretty well. Thank you.
Welcome. Happy. So are there some further questions?
Yes, I have one, if I may. I don't know.
Yes,
There's
of
in the
course.
text. How can one join on becoming a coach, or like join the program, or as a master student?
So you mailed me, I think.
Yes.
The quiz that wrote to me, and
Yes.
I was actually gonna like send the team about you and your former project, and I think I already told you guys.
The project that failed because of Corona.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So maybe in general, how you can get involved as a master student at the moment, you have only the possibility to actually participate at events and stuff we organize for you and keep tuned what else happens. Because this year, to test if our idea actually works, we rely on experienced coaches, which are also master students mostly, but which already have some experience. But later on, it is important that we actually also train these people, but we cannot actually do everything at the same time. So probably by the end of the year or by summer or spring next year or summer, there will be definitely a possibility to also become coach, hopefully, depending on how the project is accepted. But of course, there will be probably other possibilities, but who knows what is going to happen, maybe jobs or so on.
Mm-hmm. Since our goal is to scale the course up, we will continuously need more coaches. So just stay tuned. I think for the current semester, since we're just starting, the coaches will be from the design thinking class because they already know Ellen and are trained on the topic.
But yeah, I think we should stay in touch and see if for the spring semester we're gonna organize like a coach training before the semester starts. Because if we do this, then it would be a good chance to have you on board in the training, so that you can maybe become a coach in spring. So very honestly, we are still thinking about if we can already in the spring semester take people who do it for the first time, or if we should still take more experienced people, and we will make this decision based on how this autumn semester now goes. But it's a goal. So our goal is to train master students who don't have necessarily had the experience before of being coaches to also become ones. So just stay in touch, and it's probably going to be an option soon. I hope so.
Yeah. Is the training, is that like general master students that never taught anything, or it's like it's just topic specific
for design thinking?
Okay.
So it's not like for teaching assistants you also have a training, but it's a different one. So it won't be merged.
Yeah, but the goal is that the training would be such that you could also teach other design thinking like classes.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's also a bit longer term, because we're also depending on other partners at ETH and cannot do everything alone.
Okay.
Yeah, for example, for the ETH week and for the student project house, there are also coaches knowing about design thinking needed. So we're aiming to do it together, but yeah, as Medea said, we depend on them, so we can decide ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you guys have any questions? Anyone?
I just want to add one thing. I forgot. So I think it didn't, well, you see us here, but I want to point out that another special thing about Prisma is the students for students principle. So not only the coaches, but also the project lead team will always have students in it. So like us, and sometimes they will change, but it is important to us that students are also involved in the organizational part, which is quite unique at ETH, and that we have a collaboration between professional people and students, just as a note.
So maybe to answer Neil's question in the chat, he's asking about how much time during the semester this course takes you, how much amount of work it is, I guess. So it's not a course. I mean, there's no exam. It's actually not. It's not a lot of time that you will put into it alone working on something, and it's pretty free how much time you put in it. But I tell you, you will end up putting some time in it because you will get really motivated, and it will be so. Most of I mean, I think everyone I met till now in this kind of project, it's, I wouldn't call it your ego, but it's kind of you want it to be good. It's not that other subjects or courses are more like, okay, I need to do this and this in order to pass. You probably won't be thinking like this for this course. You will probably put some time in it because you want to put some time in it. But I don't think that passing it is really difficult. But we, in the end, we have really committed people and really passionate ones. And yes, it takes some time. So you should count with. I can't exactly say like so many hours a week, but count with maybe, for sure, one afternoon per week working with your team, since you also have some, it's not homework, but you need to go out and interview, and sometimes, you sometimes need to do it out of the course hours. So this takes some time in building a prototype, etc. And it's a team, and you want to build something together. And if you're the only one who's not that motivated, that kind of
pressure.
It's not good for the team. So I think you will end up working maybe one, or even by the end of the semester, it's a little bit more, and maybe then it's like 2 afternoons per week. That's more than that, not. But
maybe I can add one thing or two things. So the official course hours are once 2 hours and once 3 hours where you meet, but that's just the thing, the official hours, and then your team can organize yourself. And once it's once will be an evening, and that's on purpose, because then you will be able to stay in the evening if you want in the student project house, because you will it all depends a bit on the COVID situation, but the plan is that you also get introduced into the tools at the student project house, so you can also like build prototypes with cutting wood and whatever you like. And so yes, that's the idea. And when you look at your schedule, as Beth said, it is a course that you will put in a lot of work, and it's also needed for the team. But keep in mind that there's no exam, so it's really during the semester. So if you compare it to another course, the learning phase is like away. That's maybe important if you plan your semester.
So I don't know how it is at UZH, but I find the lectures better if they're more focused in semester, because it just makes for less stress. It doesn't feel like you're really, I don't know, it doesn't sound super scary, I guess, that you're doing it during the semester, and if any problem comes up, you can also just solve it in the semester. And maybe to kind of put it in relevance to the actual lectures we have, what would you say would it take as much time, for example, solving like a weekly exercise in the main classes we have? You know, like after the lectures, you get an exercise sheet.
I think the time might be comparable, but the work is very different. So when you're solving an exercise, I think it's a lot of brain work going on, and it's quite exhausting because you have to think a lot. And of course, in the work for Prisma, you also have to think, but more in a creative way. And a lot of work will also be to communicate with the team, to make a schedule and so on. So, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the time is similar, but the kind of work is very different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I totally agree with Medea. For me, last semester, I was taking, so I'm a physics student, so I was having statistical physics, and I was having general relativity, and I was having design thinking. And I would say that during the semester, the amount of work was similar, or I had even a little more time invested in design thinking than the other one. But for me, it was so different that it felt like being not a break, of course, but a break from the other thing. So it didn't exhaust me in the same way. It was like doing something completely different. I believe that you can do much more in one day when you're doing different things than when you're doing the same one. And the more different the things are, the better, because it feels okay. It's not chilling on the couch, but it's something that uses other parts of you. So you have more energy again, maybe.
I'm just going to ask a person. Hi. Thanks for the elaborate answer. I was just asking because in mechanical engineering, what I'm doing, there's like this focus project, which takes up it can take up to 80 hours a week or so. And it can get really intense, and you're working on this project like for all of the semester, and you're building this big thing. And I was just asking because if that is the case with Prisma, I would have to reconsider. But after your answer, I'm very satisfied, because I think it could be very interesting to do that. Not because I have to put that much time in it, but if I want to, I can. And that was my point for asking the question.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I hope that you find the projects interesting. You're motivated.
Yeah, so just comparing it to focus you were talking about, I think that the main difference there is that from focus you get I've seen a few of the prototypes they get out of there, and those are really functioning good prototypes, which is not our goal. Our goal is more in the methodology and more educational, and not that much. So you need to have a prototype, but the prototypes won't be that great. And probably this is some time that you don't, in focus you probably spend a lot of time building these prototypes actually, and our prototypes are much more conceptual and more simple.
So it's more about the process than the actual thing you put out.
Yes, it's more about, correct me if I'm wrong, if you don't agree, but for me, the way I understand it, it's much more about the thinking process you have during the project, and the methodologies you take with you, and how your mind opens when you look at things from different perspectives. And it's not that you won't be. It won't be better if you have a great prototype in the end, or worse. So it's not about the outcome itself, but about the process.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it was very nice to talk to you all. I'm very glad that we did this webinar thing.
Yeah, it's cool to see that there's so much interest. So it's
So if you have more questions, you can also write us an email. We are very happy to answer to you, and we try to do as fast as possible. And of course, there will be more things coming soon.
I think that there is actually one more question from Laura. She's raising her hand. So if you still want to ask it, go for it.
Okay, I think they wrote thank you.
Okay, then.
Yeah, thank you all and have a nice evening.
Yes.
And stay tuned on Instagram and so on.
Instagram. We're also on Facebook if you're using.
Yeah. And if you have any ideas how we could improve, just let us know. You can also criticize.
Yeah, please.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, nice to see you all, and let's hope that we meet you in person soon. So, bye.
Bye.
Bye.